Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is the weekly recap for the week of November 28th. That's right, a weekly recap of all the top stories throughout the week, conveniently located in one location. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.
Hi, lawyer.
Next, Sarah Boone crashes and burns. The jury found her guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, just think, we all waited 4 years and 9 attorneys later to get this. That's right, a jury reached a verdict of guilty in the second-degree murder trial of Sarah Boone. Now, the jury arrived at the decision after a short period of deliberations that began Friday evening, followed by closing arguments. Prosecutors say that Miss Boone zipped George Torres inside a suitcase during a drunken game of hide-and-seek, hitting him with a bat and then leaving him inside the suitcase overnight until he died of asphyxiation. Now, the state argued that Miss Boone killed Mr. Torres with malicious intent and to punish him. The defense argued that their relationship was abusive at the hands of Mr. Torres and that Miss Boone suffered from battered spousal syndrome. Now, the jury was shown a video of the previous incidents between Boone and Torres in which police were called due to alleged violations of no contact orders between the two. This was also one of the first times that Mr. Torres' perspective had been shown. Now, at the center of the case were two separate videos recorded, which are about 11 minutes apart, on Sarah Boone's cell phone of Mr. Torres inside the suitcase, calling out her name repeatedly and telling her that he couldn't breathe. Now, she's just in shock, was the defense attorney's argument in an impromptu news conference outside the courthouse. We're obviously very disappointed, the attorney said. We did the best that we could. You know, it's time that we had to prepare, because obviously it was, only been on the case for about a month. And Sarah really liked the team, and we all got along. I'm glad they were all able to get along. Anyway, the attorneys thanked the jury and praised the work of the prosecutors like they always do. I get it. Anyway, they also said this was a horrific homicide. Nobody really should have to endure this type of struggle and fight for their lives and have to die alone, begging for their last breath inside of a suitcase. I agree, that's kind of terrible. Anyway, justice was brought by the conviction of Sarah Boone, the prosecutors say. Now, this case has a long and arduous history. Sarah Boone rejected a plea deal in which a judge would have sentenced her to 15 years in the prison for manslaughter. A sentencing hearing in her case is now set for December 2nd. Now, the verdict comes after 4 years of delay, pretrial hearings. A lot of the delays were a result of Miss Boone going through multiple attorneys. Like I said, the attorney on her case now was number 9. So let's go back. February 24th of 2020, about 1:01 p.m., Sarah Boone calls 911 to report that her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, was dead inside the apartment there in Winter Park, Florida. She told 911 that she and Torres were playing a game of hide and seek the night before, and during the game, both jokingly thought it would be funny, funny, if Mr. Torres got inside the suitcase. Well, Boone said that she and Torres were drinking wine, and it's obvious from the video that she was drunk. And at some point, she went upstairs and passed out in her bed. And she said she woke up hours later to her cell phone ringing, went downstairs and found Torres unresponsive and not breathing inside the suitcase. Minutes after the 911 call, the fire department arrives and says that Torres is dead. Now, the cell phone videos, it's literally on there. And what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is put this video at the end of the video. So after I sign off, we'll put the video. It could be, some people would say, there's nothing graphic about it, but you know that there's a guy in there. So we'll put it at the end. So if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. And if you do, you can. Anyway, on the video, Torres is saying, "Sarah, I can't breathe, babe." And during the investigation, detectives found 2 videos on Sarah's iPhone, and the videos appear to show Torres zipped inside the suitcase, occasionally moving and literally begging Sarah to let him out. In the video, Boone repeatedly taunts him. "Sarah, I can't breathe, babe," you can hear Torres. "That's on you," Boone responds. "Sarah, I can't breathe." "That's on you." And then Ms. Boone laughs. Now, according to investigators, those videos were recorded shortly after 11 p.m., and Boone eventually called 911. Now, the second video, according to the records in the suitcase, according to police reports, show the suitcase in a different position flipped over and now on the left side of the living room. Now, according to the police reports, the autopsy found that Torres had scratches on his back, a large scratch on his neck, bruising on his shoulder, bruises on his forehead from blunt force trauma. He also had a cut on his lip, according to the autopsy report and testimony. And during the interrogation, she said it was not intentional. Because on February 25th of 2022, Sarah Boone drove to the Orange County Sheriff's Office where she spoke with the detectives for nearly 2 hours. And during that interview, she said that Torres' injuries were from falling off her son's bike and from running into walls. And when the detectives asked her to watch the video found on her cell phone, Boone watched it for a moment and then said she didn't want to watch them. She told detectives that she thought Torres could get out of the suitcase, alleging that it could be unzipped from the inside. However, the detectives questioned that because on the videos, they didn't see Torres' fingers reaching out from the suitcase anywhere. And in the video, you can't see any holes. There's nowhere in there where the zipper separations, you can see a hole. If there's a hole, he's pushing it on it, begging you to get out. We should probably see that hole, one of the detectives asked her during the interrogation. Well, he essentially would have been able to get out, she told another detective. She said, I didn't zip it all the way. I did not zip it up all the way, she kept repeating. This is horrific, horrific, she said. I don't think I'll ever be right because of this, she told the detectives. It was not intentional. I put my hand on the Bible. It was not intentional. I would not do that to him or anyone, she begged. But you did, the detective responds. Well, it wasn't intentional, Boone responds, adding that she thought that Mr. Torres could actually get out of the suitcase. Now, Sarah Boone then went through several court-appointed attorneys before her trial, many of whom asked to be taken off the case due to irreconcilable differences with Miss Boone over her defense. Some exited due to conflicts of interest. Now, irreconcilable differences, basically you just can't get along, always fighting, disagreeing, probably threatening to file grievances. At that point, you're out. Why do you have to put up with that crap? You don't. Anyway, Boone also claimed that her various lawyers were not working with her, not being available, and not having certain evidence that she thought would prove that she wasn't lying in court. Now, one pretrial hearing, Boone submitted a 58-page handwritten letter to the judge with a list of questions, complaints, and critiques regarding how her case was allegedly being mishandled by not only the court system, but her attorneys. At one point, she had to put up an ad, Inmate Seeks Attorney. That's what she put up. Looking for a prosperous challenge, ready for your close-up on a national television? Are you zealous with a side of keen? Read the ad. Show the world who you are with your original, creative, extraordinary expertise, confident ingenuity. Anyway, the trial delayed the motions to dismiss previous attorneys, you name it. It's been delayed. Then COVID-19 in early 2020 disrupted the court system. Many cases, including Boone's, were delayed because there was no in-court proceedings. And then while representing herself, Ms. Boone filed a motion to dismiss her second-degree murder case, citing her constitutional right to a speedy trial. Now, in Florida, the speedy trial means that a person charged with a crime must be brought to trial within 90 days of arrest if the crime is a misdemeanor, or 175 days if the crime is a felony. And it's been more than 4 years since Boone was arrested and charged with murder, she argued. The state of Florida has not met the requirements or proven good cause of delay. And ineffective, substandard state-provided attorneys should have made its request long ago, proving this as a fact. The trial delays in Sarah Boone's cases were caused by several factors. She cited procedural delays of COVID-19, frequent changes in legal counsel, court system backlogs, review and preparation of key evidence, potential mental health evaluations, Boone's rejection of a plea deal, revocation of Boone's right to court-appointed counsel, Ms. Boone's attempt to secure private representation, Hurricane Milton as well, and guess what? The motion was denied. Then in late August, Ms. Boone retained an attorney for her trial that was to begin in October, and Boone argues that she was acting in self-defense. Now, Sarah Boone spoke in her defense, taking the stand during the second-degree murder trial. You can watch that. Didn't go well. We've got all the video up from the entire trial because we brought it to you here on Crime Talk. Now, Ms. Boone said that she lied to investigators when she initially told them her boyfriend had died by accident. Instead, she said she was acting in self-defense. That's what she meant to say. So after Ms. Boone testified and the defense presented their battered spouse defense, it became pretty obvious Sarah Boone should have taken the deal in the case. She is a fool. And literally, you can tell that it wasn't like a just total reckless or even negligent standard, because Ms. Boone was taunting Mr. Torres in the suitcase, saying, that's what it feels like when you cheat on me. I think it would have been better to play, to come in and say, yes, I put him in the suitcase, but I was drunk out of my mind, and I just forgot about it. I never intentionally did anything, is what she probably should have argued. But that was Boone's original defense, which lasted 4 years, and then over another 8 attorneys. However, now she said she was a battered spouse acting in self-defense. Like I said, she said on her witness stand, I lied to the police and basically everyone because I was extremely fearful of being arrested. Now, the battered spouse argument is what's called an affirmative defense. Basically, you're saying, I did it, but I was justified. Didn't quite turn out that way. A jury said, nope, not justified. Anyway, obviously, once the case was submitted to the jury, her fate was in the hands of the jury. And she was originally charged with second-degree murder in the death of Mr. Torres. However, during the charging conference, both parties agreed for the potential lesser-included offenses of manslaughter as well as culpable negligence. The jury also had the option of finding Ms. Boone not guilty of any of the charges, including the lesser non-included charges. But the jury had to be unanimous in their decision, and just before 9 p.m. on Friday, after less than 2 hours of deliberation, they found Ms. Boone guilty of second-degree murder in the death of Jorge Torres. Now, the defense attorney who came on in the end said, hey, we respect the jury's decision. The prosecution had a lot of strong evidence and that they respect that jury's decision. Responding to further questions whether it was Boone's decision not to take a plea deal before trial, he said that the client wanted her day in court. She was convinced in her mind, obviously, that she didn't intend to kill Mr. Torres and that this was just circumstance, because they were both intoxicated. Things happened, that it was really just an unintentional act. And the attorney said, I think she felt bad about any murder conviction or pleading to any type of murder, and that she was somehow criminally responsible for Jorge's death. And I think that was her mindset all along. Everybody knew that. Yes, they did. She was in trial psychosis. She doesn't want to go to court, doesn't want a trial, but doesn't want to plead guilty. And when clients have to get up and say, yeah, I lied to the police in my initial statement, not a good fact, ladies and gentlemen, not a good fact. Anyway, we got to sentencing in a couple of months, and we'll see how it goes for Miss Boone. I think the judge is going to give her the max just because she was so damn difficult. Now, we brought you the news the other day that Lori Vallow's case in Arizona, where she's charged with the murder of husband number 4, Charles Vallow, as well as another attempted case of her niece's husband at the time, Mr. Boudreaux, has been stayed because the defense attorneys filed a motion to have a competency evaluation done on her again. Remember, in Idaho, she was found to be incompetent, and then she was restored to competency 10 months later. Well, guess what? The proceedings in Idaho, her appellate briefs were due the other day, and a new motion was filed by her defense attorneys basically saying, stop everything because we are missing transcripts from April 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th of 2023. And the court reporter apparently has never got it done. And therefore, the attorneys for Lori Vallow said, stop everything. We need to redo the briefing schedule. And guess what? The Supreme Court said, well, you're right. And it's ordered that they can augment the record. It means get these transcripts as quickly as possible. And the appellate proceedings are suspended until the transcripts that I just mentioned are filed with the court. But the Supreme Court told that court reporter, you better get those lodged within 7 days so we can get this case moving along. Welcome to appellate practice, ladies and gentlemen. There's always something that delays it. That's why all these things take forever on appeal. Next,
Don't drink if you've got a secret. I always say, like when we talk about cold cases, somewhere someone knows something and it's usually told at a bar because somebody gets drunk and they start talking about things. Well, let me give you an example right here. Now, a man who has been wanted out of Houston for 2 years was arrested last week after he reportedly confessed to the woman that he was dating that he killed his brother. Now, according to the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office, on October 20th, deputies received a call from a resident who said he kicked a man out who had recently been staying with him because he admitted to being on the run for killing his own brother. Well, needless to say, the deputies showed up and detained him, and the man reportedly initially provided law enforcement with a fake name, but less than an hour later was taken into custody. He admitted that his name was Kyle Andrew Kulak. Well, the sheriff found out that he had a warrant for murder from 2 years ago. Anyway, the police said in a statement that on March 11th, officers were called to an apartment in West Greens Road and found Brad Kulak deceased from multiple gunshot wounds. Police identified Kyle Kulak as the suspect, and he was charged with murder in July of 2022. So apparently the residents who reported Kulak said he appeared homeless and had a sign saying he was a veteran who needed help. The man reportedly got Kulak a job and let him stay in his home. And Kulak then met the man's sister, and the two started dating. The woman stated that Kulak had too much to drink one night and just kind of got mad and crazy and just bluntly told me that he had murdered his brother 2 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, keep your mouths shut. Don't drink if you had a secret. It's going to come out.
The Delphi case. Well, the defense has filed another motion asking once again for the judge to allow in their odinous theory in the defense case in chief. And really what the defense has said in their motion is that, hey, judge, everything that we have tried to argue, why we think we should be allowed to have this alternate suspect, is relevant because it's all coming out in the prosecution's case in chief, but we should be allowed to have somebody explain what this all means versus all just this weird stuff that's taking place of branches being placed here and what have you. Now, judge hasn't ruled on it just yet. Certainly there's certain things that one can do, but this is on cross-examination, but this is the type of thing that really the defense is going to want to put on an expert to help try and explain what's going on. We'll see. I wouldn't hold your breath. Usually once the judges rule, they don't like to change their mind. That's what appellate courts are for. All right, so let's go ahead and once again get to the trial against the state of Indiana versus Richard Allen. It continues Thursday, October 31st, and that's exactly 2 years to the day where multiple law enforcement agencies announced that they actually had an arrest in the Delphi killings. That's right, that's when they arrested Mr. Allen. Now, he is obviously accused of killing two teens who went missing back in February 13th of 2017, and they were found dead the following day. Now, he was arrested back in 2022 and faces 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of murder while kidnapping in the deaths of Abigail Abby Williams and Liberty Libby German. Now, jurors heard several phone calls that Richard Allen made to his family members during day 12 of the testimony at the Delphi trial. Now, how did they get those phone calls in? Well, the state called Brian Harshman. He is an Indiana State Police Master Trooper, and he explained to the jurors that he recognizes the voice of the famous bridge guy as that of Mr. Richard Allen. Why? Because it's his job, it's been his task to monitor all calls made by Richard Allen in the prison. And he said he's become quite familiar with Allen's voice, and after listening to some 700 prison calls that he's made to his family, he is quite familiar with that voice and says, yes, the bridge guy, get down the hill. This guy's saying, that's Richard Allen. Now, as Trooper Harshman testified, the prosecution played audios of the calls in which Allen repeatedly confessed to his wife, her name is Kathy Allen, and he says that he killed Abby and Libby. Now, the call spanned a series of a few months within the first half of 2023. And that spring, Allen began telling his family that he had found God and later began confessing to killing Abby and Libby. Now, Kathy Allen, the wife, seemed disturbed and upset and refused to accept her husband's confessions to her. And as he confessed in many of the calls, Richard Allen also seemed to express confusion and believed that he was actually losing his mind. And Alan would state, did Kathy tell you? I told her the other day that I accept the Lord Jesus Christ and Lord as my Savior. He told that to his mother, Janice Allen, on April 2nd of 2023. That is so wonderful, his mom replies. The following day, Alan called his wife. I want to apologize to you, he told her. I did it. I killed Abby and Libby. No, you didn't, his wife responded, and she cried on the phone. Richard Allen says, no, yes, I did, but I don't know why. Now, they've messed you up, is what his wife said, and why would you say something like that, she repeatedly asked. Because maybe I did it, Richard Allen said. Because maybe I did it? Anyway, there's something wrong, Allen's wife kept telling him. They're screwing with you there. In another call on May 10th of 2023, Richard Allen told his wife that he was definitely losing his mind. In another call shortly after that, Allen talked about the possibility of receiving the death penalty. No, that's not going to happen. This isn't right, his wife would say. They're messing with you so bad. Again, Richard Allen then would confess on the phone. I did it, he said. I did it. No, you didn't. Stop it. Stop saying that, his wife would tell him. We're going to be back together, she would proclaim. And then on June 11th of 2023, Richard Allen again said, I did it. You didn't do it, his wife said. Later in the call, Richard Allen says, I feel like I'm already in hell. Now, the prosecutors are replaying the enhanced audio from the bridge guy video in which a man's voice was heard saying, down the hill. Well, the prosecutor asked Harshman if he could recognize the man's voice. The voice is Richard Allen, the trooper stated. Now, once the calls were played in court, the prosecutors then asked Trooper Harshman about his investigation. Now, Harshman described Allen's demeanor as subdued and solemn during the calls. He testified Allen used the same tone and speech pattern as other calls and said there was no indication that he was under stress. Now, Harshman examined a report from Dr. Monica Walla that allegedly included Allen's confessions as well. Allen had said he had visited his mother and declined a lunch invitation. He then went home, grabbed a coat, and drank a couple of beers. He told Walla he saw the girls on the trail and followed them with the intent to rape them, and he ordered them down the hill and messed with his gun, which is when he believed that the bullet found at the crime scene may have been ejected. He said a van startled him, prompting him to panic, take the girls across the river, and kill them. Now, Harshman thought that the van detail was notable. He wasn't aware of it, so he conducted further investigation. He went through old reports and learned about Brad Weber, who testified and owns property across from the murder scene. Now, Harshman said the old reports didn't mention Weber's van or what type of van he drove on the day of the murders. He didn't think it was just general public knowledge. Anyway, Harshman talked to Weber and developed a timetable, and he knew Libby German's phone stopped moving at about 2:32 p.m. on February 13th of 2017, and he found out Weber clocked out of work at 2:02 p.m., and it would take him between 20 to 25 minutes to get home. Now, Weber would apparently use North 625 West, taking him past the murder scene, Harshman testified. And Weber testified as much, that Weber would have been in the area between 2:28 and 2:30 p.m., which lines up with the state's murder timeline. Now, Allen gave the detailed confession to Walla back in May of 2023, and Harshman didn't even read that report until August of 2024. So the bridge guy video from Libby German's phone was again played in court. Harshman testified that he believed the voice from the video was in fact Richard Allen's. Now, during cross-examination, Mr. Rozzi noted that there were some 14,000 tips in the Delphi case and said that there were numerous references, perhaps hundreds, to white vans in evidence that has been turned over in discovery. Now, Rozzi tried to poke holes in Weber's van testimony, and he also asked Mr. Harshman, or Trooper Harshman, if he considered Weber a suspect since his van was near the murder scene at the time of the killings. No, Trooper Harshman responded. Rozzi also said in court that Allen was likely on medication during the time of the calls and asked Mr. Harshman if that would have had an impact on his speech. The investigator couldn't say. Anyway, Rozzi also asked Mr. Harshman if he was aware of some of Allen's bizarre behavior while in custody and asked if he had seen video of him eating his own feces. Mr. Harshman said, yeah, possibly I've seen that. I would think that'd be something you'd never forget. Anyway, Rozzi asked him if that was normal behavior. The trooper responded, "Not for me." Anyway, Rozzi mentioned that Allen was in custody and said, "I'll tell them whatever they want to say," and asked if it would be unreasonable to think he was just saying anything. "That's not my interpretation," the trooper responded back. Now, Rozzi also asked about one of Allen's earlier phone calls to his father that led to an objection from the prosecutors and a sidebar with Judge Gall. On redirect, the prosecutor said he wanted to play another call. It continues, gets a little more bizarre, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, it's going to come down to, do they believe that those were confessions? Does he know information? Does Richard Allen know information that nobody else knew? Or are they just trying to look for something to say, look, there's corroboration that his statement is correct? Or was he just saying whatever he needed to say because he truly, in fact, was losing his mind? I've had clients that said, talk about editing, so to speak, but they said, "I'll tell you whatever you want to hear, but it won't be the truth." Of course, they left that out. It won't be the truth part. So you got to be very, very careful and very suspect of this. You also have to take it all in context and try to figure out the truth. Let me know what you're thinking. Is this new information that you're thinking Allen is innocent or guilty? Let me know in the comments below. Next, rapper Young Thug pleads guilty. That's right. Rapper Young Thug pled guilty Thursday in Atlanta to gang, drug, and gun charges and will be released from jail, though he could be put back in jail if he violates the terms of his sentence. Now, the artist, who was given name as Jeffrey Williams, entered his plea without reaching a deal with prosecutors after negotiating between the two sides broke down, and the lead prosecutors represented that to the judge. That left the sentence completely up to the Fulton County Superior Court Judge, Paige Reese Whitaker. Now, Young Thug's plea comes 2.5 years after he was arrested and charged, with nearly a year after the prosecution started presenting evidence in the very plagued jury trial. Now, jury selection in this case began in January of 2023, and that took nearly 10 months. Prosecutors then called dozens of witnesses since opening statements since last November for a trial of 6 defendants. The trial has faced numerous delays, including one in July when the original judge was removed after 2 defendants sought his recusal, citing a meeting the judge had with the prosecutors and the state witnesses. Now, Young Thug pled guilty to 1 gang charge, 3 drug charges, and 2 gun charges. He also had entered a no contest plea to another gang charge and a racketeering conspiracy charge, meaning that he decided not to contest those charges, but he can be punished as if he pled guilty. Now, the judge imposed a sentence of 40 years, with the first 5 years to be served in prison, but commuted to time served, followed by 15 years of probation. And if he successfully completes that probationary period without any violations, another 20 years will be commuted to time served. But if he violates the condition, he will have to serve those 20 years in prison. Now, Young Thug must stay away from the metro Atlanta area for the first 10 years of his probation, except for weddings, funerals, graduations, or serious illnesses of family members. The judge also ordered him to return to Atlanta area 4 times a year during his probation to make a live anti-gang, anti-gun violence presentation at a school or community organization. She also said that will count towards the 100 hours of community service that she has ordered him to complete within the next year of probation. And he's also not allowed to associate with gang members or victims of other defendants in this case. Needless to say, that case should have been over long ago. It was a complete fiasco. Judges, no trial. It takes 10 months to seat a jury. I don't know how they're doing things in Atlanta there, but that is ridiculous.